Today at Manchester Theatres, I am thrilled to be joined by Naomi Preston-Low, who is currently touring with Pride and Prejudice, sort of. It's coming to Lowry from the 18th of March, and we are very, very excited. Now, Naomi has worked across stage and screen, having appeared in television shows such as Bridgerton and Doctors, in films such as Jane Eyre and Horrid Henry, and on stage in shows such as Further Than the Furthest Thing, the Wind and the Rain, Sound of Music, and Macbeth. But we are going from one classic to another as we talk all about Pride and Prejudice, sort of. So, Naomi, thank you for joining us today. And yeah, explain the story and the twist of the sort of for us, if you would, please.
Thank you so much for having me. So yes, we are in Pride and Prejudice, sort of. It's actually a very sort of classical adaptation of the story. It sticks to the story far more than you might think. The sort of element comes from the way that we tell that story. So it's done from five servants that are dressing up as the characters from Pride and Prejudice and telling the story. So it's sort of a working class version, and we get to hear those amazing regional accents and stuff like that. And it's the servants who are, sort of taking everything that they've observed from the upper classes and claiming that for themselves. So we do tell the story, put on the dresses, and then you're completely immersed in the story. And the other element of the sort of is that there's modern songs that everybody will know and recognize, like You're So Vain and Young Hearts Run Free. And yeah, and it's all in modern language as well. So there's no barrier. Everybody that comes to see it will be able to understand what's being said and relate to it as well.
And you've mentioned the character. I mean, that's a brilliant take, isn't it? It's the story, but it's dependent on who tells that story, the viewpoint changes slightly. It's so clever.
It is.
Um, and you've mentioned like you constantly play different characters. I'm going to talk about the multi-rolling in a moment, but so do you have any main characters that you think, "Oh, that's the one that I just love when I get to do that one?"
Yes, so really luckily, I'm playing a servant who gets to play Elizabeth Bennet for the whole story. So as soon as I put on that costume, I'm her for the rest of the piece. And it's the role of a lifetime, really. I mean, I feel so lucky that I get to do it every night, especially telling it in this way that's so fun. And I think she's quite different to who I am as a person. So I couldn't believe it when I got cast to be able to play her. I was thinking, oh my gosh, that's amazing. But she's so sort of gutsy and she's got all this confidence, and it's so interesting. When I read the book again after having read it at school, I came to it again when I'd got the part. And I was just thinking it's so modern that Jane Austen wrote a character like this who wasn't afraid to sort of speak her mind and go against those norms back then. And so I think it's really amazing that you look at her and you think, gosh, she's such a modern character, but actually that's just what Jane Austen wrote.
Yeah, and I think that's the brilliance of how Pride and Prejudice sort of plays with it because she was such an ahead of her time revolutionary character. And you don't really, I mean, you do appreciate that, but when you put it in the modern terms and you sort of take some of that for granted, it kind of really highlights, doesn't it, that, whoa, this character was light years ahead of her time.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's so interesting to see and to play with as well. Yeah, very lucky.
And you do get to play around with the characters. So, like you said, you start as a servant, but you're Elizabeth Bennet, and all the
Yes.
other people in it are playing multiple different roles. And it's, like you've mentioned accents. So, it might be that you change an accent or like a posture or a mannerism. I mean, how
Exactly.
much fun do you have in rehearsals when you're exploring all these different options?
It was so much fun. And I don't know how all the other girls do it. So there's five of us, and the other four play all of the other parts. So we've got Rihanna, who plays Mrs. Bennet, who's the mother, and Mr. Darcy as well. And she does them both. Sometimes I'm thinking, gosh, do they never appear in the same scene together? It's
Yeah.
amazing the way that she does it. And the quick changes that all the girls do. Christine Steele has the most incredible quick change. You'll have to come and look out for it if you can. It's just a blackout and she appears out of nowhere, and then a seconds later she's back on as a different character. And I actually thought that there'd be way more sort of I don't know, things going wrong with who people are being at the same time. But like that it's absolutely seamless. And I think the feedback that we've got is that people often think that there's far many more of us in it than there actually are. You know,
I've
there's
heard
only
that.
5 of us. And
Yeah.
yeah, from the costume, the design is so clever, the direction is so clever, and the actors are so talented that they just do it just like that, and you never question it.
And it must be a dream as well to sort of, like you say, you get the role of a lifetime to play Elizabeth Bennet, but then you get to play the servants as well. And it's such a joy. And is it more fun to play the wealthy or the servants?
Oh, that's a great question. Um, I think, I don't know, I think in our version, because we're sort of combining the two, it's almost like when you're playing the wealthy, you've always got this little comment on it. Like you're sort of not fully embodying them. There's always this sort of fun of like getting to dress up as them and what would I do if I was from a different class. And I think that, there's so much fun in that to be had. Yeah.
Yeah, because I suppose going back to what you said, it's actually it is the wealthy, but it's the servant's perception of the wealthy, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's so clever. Yeah, Isabel MacArthur has written the most incredible script that when I read it, I thought anyone would be so, so, so lucky to get to be in this production. And she won the Olivier, of course, for
Yeah.
Best comedy. And yeah, I think that is a reason to come and see it, if nothing else.
Yeah.
It's absolutely masterful the way that she's directed our production and the writing itself. It's so clever.
And it, like you say, this Olivier Award winning, it won for best comedy, and it it's brilliant in its own right, but it then really is allowed to lean into the wit of Austen as well, isn't it? Because she does have a lot of wit in the original as well.
Oh, she's so funny. Absolutely. I was really taken aback by that. I think when I read it, I was, for some reason, I thought that it was much more, I don't know, like not for me type thing. But then
Yeah.
when I read it, I was thinking, gosh, there's so much humor in here. And she was actually, she was so observant and she actually captured elements of society that were that we have now, they had back then. And it's just brilliant.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the brilliant things as well of the way that this play's being done, because you've got this like one of the greatest literature writers of all time, and like you've said, some people go, "Oh, one of the greatest lit." That's not going to be for me. I'm not that intellectual, or I'm not whatever.
Yeah.
But bringing it to life this way, you go, "No, it's a story, and it is a story for like everybody, really, isn't it?"
Exactly. That's exactly it. I'd say, like, if you're going to come and see it, I'd say park any expectations that you have at the door if you can, and just come in and just witness this story being told. You don't need to know anything about it before you come in. You'll understand it as the story evolves. And yeah.
So you mentioned some of the songs that we've got going on, like "You're So Vain" and all of these. Now, I believe this kind of like done in sort of a karaoke kind of. So give us a little bit more information on these tunes.
Yeah, so we begin with Every Day I Write the Book. So we've got a lot of like classic songs that are in there. I sing a rendition of You're So Vain. We're doing it on a karaoke style. So we're at the ball and sort of with a modern twist to it, there's a karaoke machine there. And it's just after Darcy sort of insulted her. And Elizabeth goes and grabs the mic and says, right, this is what I'm going to sing, and sings You're So Vain to him. So they all make so much sense within the piece and
Yeah.
the story. It just helps you. Just a really fun way to sort of relate to what they're going through a bit more. And that those pieces are sort of put in sporadically. So I'd say it's a play with songs rather than a musical.
Yeah.
But we do dance and we do sing, and yeah, Young Hearts finishes the piece, and that it always manages to get people on their feet, and it's so sort of joyful, and it's about, these 5 young women that have told this story, and yeah, the lessons that have been learned.
And how, I don't know if you're allowed to say this or if this is going to be a spoiler, but how is that scene recreated? Mr. Darcy, the lake. Are you
Mm.
allowed to say or?
Well, I'd say it's a little bit of a spoiler, but I'd say we do have a reference to it in there. So if you're a fan of Colin Firth and you've seen that scene of him coming out of the lake, we do reference it in the piece, but it's done in such a clever way that I wouldn't even want to give anything away. But
Okay.
if you're an Austenite, then you'll get it
Yeah.
immediately.
And because all of this is, like you say, we've got this classic story, but it's been brought into the modern time. So if we were now bringing these characters to now, like Pride and Prejudice sort of does, we've got some that choose to marry for love, or want to marry for love, should I say, some that want to marry for wealth and status, and others like Elizabeth who, you know, they want to find that love within them. And so which of these characters do you think, if it was today, we'd be seeing on the likes of Love Island and Married at First Sight and things like that?
Oh my gosh, that's so good. Well, I think definitely George Wickham. He's definitely a character who I think would be there. Such a ladies' man. He'd have all of them, you know, he'd be there for sure. And I think Lydia as well, Lydia Bennet. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously she's like the little sister and she's all about just like she's boy mad. And I think yeah, she'd definitely be on the reality TV series for sure.
I can just picture it. It'd be so, I mean, you know, like merging them kind of worlds together, which is kind of what this show does, doesn't it? It's
Absolutely.
using modern references to bring a story to life.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, it sounds like so much fun. And I know we got it in Manchester not too long ago, so I'm absolutely thrilled that it is coming back to Lowry so that people can grab it and enjoy everything it's got to offer. So as a closing then, Naomi, why should people come and watch?
People should come and watch this show because it is a great night out. You can come not knowing anything about it or whether you know the story and love it. There's enough in there and it sticks close enough to the story that you're going to have a great time. And it's just it's a comedy beyond anything else. It makes you laugh, it makes you smile, you know. It's incredible for us to be able to go out there every night and tell this story and see that people are just there having a really good time. And it's also a talking point. I think it's something that you could recommend to your friends, maybe people that have never been to the theatre before, or people that go all the time, and just to come out and have a night out and forget about everything that's going on in the world and just see a classic love story being told, but perhaps not in the way you might think.
Yeah, so always a surprise around the corner. I love it.
Yes, exactly.
Well, you can tell from listening to you talk, Naomi, just how much you absolutely adore this piece, and it's infectious. So I'm sure everyone will want to come and watch it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time. You can catch Naomi in Pride and Prejudice, sort of, at Lowry from the 18th of March. And as you can see, it really is going to be a show not to be missed. So we will see you very, very soon. Thank you.
I'm so excited. Thank you so much.
Pride and Prejudice, Jane Austen's most iconic love story. Told by the servants who, in this audacious retelling, play every part.
We all need husbands.
The five-star comedy sensation direct from London's West End is an adaptation like no other.
Mr. Darcy! I could sing. No.
Men, money and microphones are fought over in this dynamic karaoke-fueled celebratory show, where the stakes couldn't be higher when it comes to romance. It's the 1800s, it's party time, let the matchmaking begin.